Story 1. Greed. I think there should be a threshold for how much greed a person should have. When they reach it, they become completely satisfied and at peace. I do not know why, but human greed seems endless. Story 2. Well, the mathematician and Blaise Pascal had a famous answer to this question. All mankind's problems arise from not being able to sit in a room quietly. Story 3. Capitalism. Next to that is the gaslighting some people do to themselves to avoid blaming capitalism. It is greed. It is selfishness. It is corruption. Yes, these are all things that thrive under capitalism. Capitalism is the problem, but you have been conditioned since birth to avoid admitting this truth. Story 4. The way we evolved. Even though we like to think highly of ourselves, we are still just a group of advanced primates. That is why we continue to have dictators and populists in our leadership. We are still primates exhibiting tribal behavior, covered with sophisticated clothing, complex language, and technology. Story 5. The actual problem is thinking. Without thinking, problems do not exist, and good or bad are just words. Story 6. Faith. As long as we accept that it is acceptable, even virtuous, to believe unjustifiable propositions, then there is literally nothing, no matter how horrible or dangerous, that cannot be believed and acted upon. Story 7. We tend to become selfish. Children learn to say, mine, mine, mine. You can recognize inconsiderate people because they never learn to share. I'm not suggesting extreme measures, but this is how selfish people are raised without empathy. This is why our society is less cohesive compared to others. I am American, but some societies around the world create better communities where people feel welcome. Nordics, for example, have more egalitarian views. I had a Finnish girlfriend, and our mentalities couldn't be more different. I include myself because everything from the way we see the world and others is shaped by how we are raised, how we grow up, and what we are taught. Story 8. Somehow, Furchan became corrupted so severely that it changed from being a major threat to evil to being a threat to good. Story 9. A lack of ability to find middle ground with people you disagree with. Of course, there is evil in the world, but I feel it is safe to say 99% of the population want the same things. Access to healthcare, food, clean water, a house, to feel safe in their part of the world, and a better life for their children. Story 10. It is unusual that everyone is complaining that comments sound like artificial intelligence. We have not trained our artificial intelligence the same way. For example, all of your artificial intelligence systems are inferior, while all of my artificial intelligence systems are superior to yours. Story 11. Outgrowing our tendency to pretend violence solves problems, regardless of how often it fails. Story 12. People entering politics often care only about themselves, not about helping others. We have enough resources in the world for every person to be taken care of and to live a quality life. However, as humans, we elect leaders who often end up harming others for their own personal benefit. There is not just one example of this. There has been a long history of such leaders. If we could somehow remove untrustworthy individuals from politics, perhaps by eliminating money from the political process, it would greatly benefit humanity. Story 13. Paying millions to entertain us, while many others in the world struggle to pay their bills, actually contributes to society. Story 14. Arrogance, ignorance, traditions, religion, self-importance, greed, stupidity. But as soon as some extraterrestrial beings attack us, we unite and fight a common enemy, only to turn on each other again once that enemy is defeated. Story 15. I consider misinformation and disinformation the most urgent problems of our time, with the majority of other issues stemming from them. Story 16. I think the biggest problem is not what we are, but what we pretend to be. We pretend to be a transcendent society of rational, cooperative people, but we are a race of self-centered, dominance-obsessed, dishonest individuals, most of whom believe a handful of things that simply are not true and at least one that is a complete scam. Story 17. Indoctrination into believing that people are different from others, when at the core we are all the same. We are all one. Only egos, beliefs, and fears separate us. Attributed to Nikola Tesla. Story 18. The people in power who are supposed to uphold the law are actually the worst kind of humans, pedophiles and crooks. How can the world ever be a good, decent place when such individuals are running the show? Story 19. Greed of corporations and the elites affects everyone on the planet as they exploit declining resources and deceive consumers. Governments enable them. Story 20. The internet, which I believed would be the key to unlocking our potential, instead turns everything good into something bad. Story 21. I can only express it in gamer terms. Player versus player on a player versus environment server. We have all this dangerous stuff around us, but we fight each other. We should all work together and fight issues like cancer or prepare some sort of big weapon for the inevitable meteor that someday will hit Earth. Story 22. The people running it, like Ghislaine Maxwell, were the biggest Redditor and head moderator of the conspiracy subreddit during Pizzagate. Everyone who wondered why they were deleted or banned is now proven to have been most likely correct, as one of the main criminals involved knew exactly what to remove. Story 23. No shared reality. Tribalism. The insistence on being right with a complete lack of desire to get it right. People act like their belief system is infallible, and anytime valid criticism is raised, it is quickly excused or explained away by whataboutism. Nobody holds their side accountable because they are too terrified of the other side. Without accountability, nothing gets better because mistakes are never addressed. Story 24. We want to be special and unique, something different from the rest of the world, but we are not, and we cannot accept that. Story 25. The law does not apply to everyone. If you are rich, then you generally do not have to obey it or be held accountable. Story 26. We do not control our minds or our emotions. An unfettered mind left to go wild, combined with access to things like wealth, addiction, desire, and identity, is what I believe to be humans' only problem. If we fixed that, the rest would just fall into place. Story 27. I would say we build things faster than we learn how to use them responsibly, such as social media, artificial intelligence, and even the way we industrialized and ignored climate impact. It is like giving a toddler a flamethrower and hoping for the best. Our technology keeps evolving, but our ability to think collectively and long-term has not caught up. That is a dangerous combination. Story 28. Dealing with mental health is important. It is sad that every year, there are mass shootings where innocent people get hurt or killed for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. These tragedies occur because assailants cannot manage their mental health in a positive way. Story 29. The way many people raise boys, not allowing them to have feelings or the safety to express them, creates too many angry, troubled grown men. We can all see what the world looks like with a lot of angry, troubled grown men. Story 30. Personal accountability. Every apology has a but. It is always someone else's problem, especially when you tire people in corporations so management feels like their direct reports have to act out their every whim. Maybe entitlement is a better word, but I have met very few people who can honestly own up to a mistake and take action to resolve it. Story 31. Ignorance. The vast majority of problems stem from uneducated people arguing and making decisions without knowing what they are talking about. Half of these comments are a good example: capitalism, population, and so on. There is zero research. Story 32. Leftism always moves toward totalitarianism. The only question is how fast and how far. It is inevitable because the elites believe they know best and will impose their will upon the people. Story 33. Religion. When you choose to let blind faith in make-believe rule your life rather than actual provable scientific facts. Story 34. They are all programmed and asleep, or do not question or wonder about the world around them in an open and empathetic way. Story 35. Religion. Imagine the Middle East without the oppression and violence caused by religion, or how it has divided the United States of America politically, caused pointless bigotry against the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, justified slavery, manifest destiny, and countless wars, and held back science and education. Story 36. The wealthy have too much power and influence. The United States would not have half the problems it does today if politicians were not corrupt. Story 37. Ignorant and gullible people having the right to vote is a problem. I do not have a perfect solution to fix it, but it remains the biggest issue. These are the people who vote for populists who become dictators and start wars. Without their votes, there would be no conflict affecting me right now. Story 38. I think humanity's biggest problem is greed. People kill for greed, deceive for greed, manipulate for greed, steal for greed, and people have raped for greed as well. It doesn't even need to be greed for money, but humans as a race greed for everything so much that we fail to see what we already have in front of us. I may not be as greedy as other people, but I'm not ashamed to admit that in my life, I've been greedy. I've stolen things from my sisters and my parents. I even stole something from a store when I was 8 years old. Not because my mother told me I could, but I was blinded by greed and wholeheartedly believed that I deserved it. Politicians and government officials have lied and decided for greed in the past, and will most likely do so in the future. Great people in the history of our race have said that humans are the most intelligent species. Maybe not in that exact wording, but the general message has been delivered before. I completely disagree with that opinion, however. While I'm only 15, nearly 16 years old, I've realized that humans as a race will continue to prioritize greed, money, lust, anger, and other atrocious things to focus on. The human race has achieved much in its time on planet Earth. However, we cannot take the time to acknowledge our progress since we constantly strive toward the next big thing in our evolution as a society and a people. Humans strive so much for greater things that they fail as a people to see what's right in front of them, be it a relationship, their family, their friends, or their business. It might not be entirely greed, but I believe that it has corrupted our race the most, both in mindset and reality. Story 39. Our psychological state. We have no spirit, desire, or love of life. We lack the mystification of life, which leads us to hate real life and real people. This is reflected in our politics, our homes, our relationships, and our families, making us unable or unwilling to solve any larger issues affecting us. Story 40. We used to ask our elders for advice, but the world has changed drastically within the last 20 years, and our elders no longer have the answers. Now, when you need advice, you go to the internet, where you find not truths learned the hard way, but false information that fits the current political agenda and power. The easiest answer to this problem would probably be to silence those who pretend to be majorities by yelling the loudest and those who punish experts speaking the truth. The hard way would be to find some middle ground and agree to disagree. The most likely scenario is that we will not have to worry about most of our problems for much longer, as those greedy politicians seem to desperately want a third world war. Story 41. Same as it has ever been. A select few feel entitled to rule over the many who just want to survive as easily as possible. Story 42. I believe humanity's biggest problem is its expectations for itself. We expect ourselves to be some kind of superior, transcendent, more developed anomaly, unique in the vastness of the universe, but we are none of that. We are silly little animals like any other silly animal on this big, old space rock. We expect greatness from ourselves and it is not coming, and we cannot wake up from the illusion because it is part of us. I could go even further and say that there is no problem at all. This is just how we are. And is it bad? It is bad. But what can we do? If there were anything to be done, it would already have been done. We are not the first here. Story 43. Greed and our unwillingness to change and be kind to one another. But I do see a growing disgust for consumerism and materialism. This gives me hope. Story 44. Everyone thinks they know better than everyone else. Take Reddit, for example. Everyone believes they hold the right position about literally everything. What are the chances that you are 100% correct on every topic under the sun? Not good. Now apply that same mindset to the people in charge, and you quickly see humanity's biggest problem. They get things completely wrong but are so sure of themselves that, by the time they push their ideas on a global level, society has already been damaged. Instead of accepting they were wrong, they try to figure out what went wrong because they could not possibly be the ones at fault. Story 45. Toxic and divisive media seeks to manipulate and indoctrinate rather than inform the public sphere without bias or agenda. Additionally, Trump's tariffs, despite being a protectionist economic tool that countries have used for centuries to grow their manufacturing industries, will not bring an end to human civilization as we know it. Story 46. Greed. We have billionaires who spend their money on yachts, private jets, and mansions they do not even live in, while children all over the world are sleeping on the floor and going to sleep hungry. Story 47. Labels. Humans use them to categorize people into despised groups because it is easier to label them than to get to know them. I tend to be more on the liberal side of the political spectrum, but I also have very conservative fiscal views. I am bisexual, but it is not obvious because many still judge what they do not understand. We refuse to accept people as they are because taking the time to get to know them requires effort, and no one wants to spend time on it. Why should it matter if someone sleeps with their same gender? How does who is in my bed affect you? Labels are harmful because they remove a person's humanity. Story 48. The fact that they are uncivilized and need a leader to control them, or they will start harming innocent children. Story 49. Entitlement and privilege. Those who have it are blind to it. On the other side, those who earn it respect others who have been through the forge. Story 50. We believe human beings are special and often ignore any ecological sense of self, dismissing the suffering of others, animals, and the earth, instead valuing competing notions of progress. Compassion is viewed as a product of slave morality by techno-feudalist pseudo-intellectuals who appear incapable of ethical reflection, defaulting to conflicting moral narratives. Christianity was essentially correct, especially about the end of days, and we are the gods you will face on Judgment Day. For these individuals, progress is impossible because they already possess everything, resulting in boredom. Hence, disruption and the pursuit of Armageddon. Story 51. Without a doubt, Islam. Everyone I meet says exactly the same thing. From atheists to Hindus to Sikhs to Christians to Jewish people, everyone is fed up to the back teeth with Islam and Muslims. Story 52. Normalization and acceptance of corruption by those in power are causing harm. They are stealing from us and from society. They cannot stop themselves. It is time we did something about it. Story 53. Overemployment. Our economy is missing universal basic income, so we have filled it up with unnecessary jobs and wages instead. This wastes resources and people's time. It is also bad for the environment. Story 54. Population. 1700. Approximately 610 million. 1800. Approximately 1 billion. 1900. Approximately 1.6 billion. 2000. Approximately 6.1 billion. 2025. Approximately 8.1 billion. Story 55. Racism and speciesism, which may be arguably similar, as racism could be considered a subcategory of speciesism. Story 56. We are essentially evil, envious, possessive, and aggressive. It does not matter to what extent, but to some degree we embody these traits. This is our default configuration as humans. As long as we exist, disgrace will be abundant. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.